Hello, dear Aries. Today, I want to invite you into a journey unlike any you've ever taken before, because there are truths that, when revealed, won't just bring tears to your eyes. They can forever change the way you see yourself. Don't rush away, because what you're about to hear is not just prediction, but a mirror reflecting the very soul within you. And right now, let us begin. At the place where the very first truth is rising. The truth, once it awakens inside the human heart, will never stay silent. Aries, maybe you once believed you were strong enough to hide it all. The wounds you never touched, the memories you buried, the pain you thought time itself would wash away. But truth is not like dust. It doesn't scatter with the wind. It's not like a fallen leaf carried off and forgotten. Truth is like a flame, smoldering under ashes. You can bury it with layers of stone and soil, but one day it will rise, burning bright, consuming, illuminating. And maybe today, you feel that very fire burning through you, a sharp ache, a weight pressing down, as if the entire world inside you is shattering into pieces. But let me tell you this, pain is not your enemy. Pain is a signal. It's your soul knocking at the door, begging to be seen, longing for you to come back home. In Buddhist teaching, they call this the indestructible truth. The more it's buried, the brighter it shines when it breaks through. And in the human journey, truth often appears only when we are ready, even if readiness comes through tears. I know, Aries, you've been used to standing tall, used to holding yourself so no one could say you were weak, used to showing the world that nothing could break you. But deep down, there are shadows you've never faced. Moments when you chose others over yourself. Memories of being left behind, carrying a quiet wound for years. Or maybe just that small voice inside you whispering, "I just want to be me." A voice you silenced, afraid that if you let it out, you'd lose love, recognition, or the place you fought so hard to keep. And now, that truth is rising. It makes you tremble, it stirs your anger, it brings you to tears. But inside every tear, there is a seed of freedom, like rain falling on cracked earth. At first deepening the pain, but then helping new life to break through. You cannot heal what you will not touch. You cannot fly with wings of lead you've strapped to yourself. And you cannot truly love until you dare to be honest with your own heart. Take a deep breath. Look at the flame inside you. Do not fear it. See it as your lamp. It's telling you, the time has come. No more delay. The time to brush off the dust and face what you've been running from. Pain is not failure. Pain is a doorway. And once you walk through, you are no longer the same. You are braver, clearer, more real. Remember this, Aries. Freedom does not come from escaping the truth. It comes from the moment you sit down with it, face it, and embrace it as part of your very soul. And when you allow yourself to do that, a new layer of the story unfolds. You realize that for all these years, to survive, you wore a mask, a shining armor that made others believe you were untouchable. But that hidden truth, it shows you now just how heavy that armor has been and how much it has dimmed the true light in your eyes. And this, Aries, is the moment we must take the next step, to look straight at the mask you have carried for far too long. There are people who walk into the world each day with a proud stance, a fiery gaze, and a firm voice. So everyone believes they are strong, unshakable, untouchable. Aries, you are that image in the eyes of many. They see determination. They see courage. They see an endless flame, but few know, behind that wall of strength, there is a soul that at times feels fragile, a soul that longs for an embrace, a look warm enough to say, "You too deserve a place to lean on." For years, you may have learned how to push through, turning wounds into smiles, turning exhaustion into quicker steps, turning tears into silence, and slowly, a mask was formed. Not carved from wood, not forged from iron, but shaped from the expectations of others, from the constant reminder to be strong, from the fear that if you revealed your softness, you would be judged, you would lose love or respect. The strange thing is this mask is both shield and chain. It helped you survive the storms, but it left you exhausted carrying it day and night. It made the world believe you were unbreakable, while your soul only wanted to be touched with gentleness. In Buddhist teaching, they say, strength is not never falling, but rising again from where you have fallen. Yet this world often confuses us. It glorifies toughness and forgets that true strength does not lie in the armor outside, but in the courage to take it off, to let others see the cracks, the scars, the moments when your hands trembled. A flame hidden away cannot light the path. It doesn't disappear, but it smolders, burning the very place it hides. And just like you, Aries, If you keep imprisoning yourself in the shell of being unbreakable, the true light within you can't reach anyone. You only end up burning yourself, through lonely nights, through tears shed in silence when no one can hear. I know. Sometimes the hardest battle isn't with the world outside, it's with yourself. The hardest thing is removing the mask and admitting, I am weak too, I am afraid too, I need to be loved too. But in that moment, you discover another kind of strength, the strength of honesty, a strength that doesn't need to be displayed, doesn't need to prove anything, yet shines all on its own. Think back. Was there a time when you allowed your true tears to fall, and instead of losing respect, you received empathy? Was there a time when you dared to say, I'm not okay, and unexpectedly you found an embrace, a word of comfort that warmed you again? That is the proof that truth heals more powerfully than any cold mask ever could. Aries, this world doesn't need you to be an invincible hero. What it needs is the real you, a soul that can be both strong and fragile, brave and afraid, ready to fight and humble enough to pray. That is the beauty of wholeness. And when you dare to let others see that truth, you don't become weaker. You become stronger than ever before. Right now, you may already feel the armor you've carried for so long is heavy. Each step pulled down, each laugh forced. But trust this, you don't have to carry it forever. You deserve to breathe. You deserve to let go. You deserve to be free. And when the mask finally falls, something else becomes clear, your heart. A heart that once gave too much, even to those who never knew how to hold it, never knew how to return it. And in that hiding, Aries, you traded your heart away for loves that could never love you back. In love's journey, Aries, you've often walked with a heart on fire, believing that if you just gave enough love, one day it would be returned. You've loved with all your honesty, all your passion, pouring out everything inside you, as if the whole universe would surely answer the flame in your chest. But then, the bitter moments come, and you realize the response never arrives. What meets your waiting is indifference. What replaces promises is emptiness. What once felt like protection turns into cold silence. This is the pain of unreturned love. It isn't just sorrow when a relationship ends. It's the feeling that somehow you've betrayed yourself, because in those moments of giving, you gave so much, you forgot that you too deserve to be loved, to be held, to be cherished. And when it doesn't come, your soul begins to dry out. In Buddhist teaching, they say love itself is never wrong. Love is the most beautiful energy we can give to each other. But when you love and forget yourself, it's no longer love, it's sacrifice. A sacrifice of self-respect, of peace, of long nights spent asking, why am I never enough? And the truth is, you were never lacking. You were only missing one choice to choose yourself. No one can love you enough if you do not love yourself first. It sounds simple, but it is the lamp that guides so many lost souls. How many of us have been in relationships where the smile was just a mask, while the heart was bleeding inside? How many have tried one more time, one more chance, hoping our patience would turn into a miracle? And how many times, after it all, have we come back to an empty room, holding only ourselves? Aries, you were not wrong for loving. You were not wrong for giving your all. But remember, love is not a one-sided prayer. It is a river, and if only one side flows while the other stays closed, that river turns into desert, and no flower can bloom in that dryness. I want you to sit in silence for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, how many times in your life have you loved, but forgotten yourself? How many times have you put another above everything, only to find in the end, the one left behind was you? And when you write down that answer, maybe tears will fall. But those tears are not weakness. They are the bravest confession. They say you are finally ready to face the truth. If you wish, share that story, not to display your pain, but to let another soul out there, someone struggling in the same silence, realize they are not alone, because sometimes one small story can be the medicine that heals another. The pain of unreturned love has taught you a profound lesson, that love must begin within. When you choose yourself, you are not rejecting the world. You are teaching the world how to love you. When you place your hand on your heart and say, I am worthy too, you are rewriting the entire story of your life. And then, when the curtain falls, when you stop blaming yourself, stop searching for answers in someone else's eyes, you'll see something deeper. Your anger was never about hating them. It was about losing yourself. Your silence was never acceptance. It was a cry for help never spoken aloud. And that, Aries, is the moment another truth begins to rise. Anger often comes like a sudden fire, rising fiercely in the heart, making us believe we want to destroy everything. But the truth is, anger is never just anger. It is the echo of long loneliness. It is the sound of a heart forgotten for too long. When you explode in rage, what you truly want to say is not, "I hate you." It is, "I need you, why can't you see me?" Aries, think back to the angry moments in your life. How many times after shouting, after slamming the door shut, did you sit in silence, exhausted, filled with regret? How many times were you not angry at what the other person did, but at the invisibility you felt, the wound reopened from some distant memory? The truth is, anger is only a mask. Beneath it lives a child inside you, trembling, waiting, longing to be held. And silence is the same. Many believe silence is peace, but for you, silence sometimes is chosen out of fear. Fear that if you spoke your heart, you would lose love. You would lose the one you tried so hard to hold. So you swallow it down. You pretend you're fine, pretend you're strong, until the silence itself becomes a burden. And when you're alone, you hear the voice inside crying, "Why does no one hear me?" In Buddhist teaching, emotions are like waves. They can crash, they can calm, but in the end, every wave returns to the sea. Anger is the same, silence is the same. We don't need to deny it, and we don't need to be swept away. What matters is to sit with it, to ask, what is this wave here to teach me? Because even anger is a teacher. It points to where something is missing, shows where in your heart you still long to be touched. Your anger, Aries, is only a whisper. I need to be loved. And when you're brave enough to hear that whisper, you'll see it's not as frightening as you thought. It doesn't come to destroy, it comes to guide, to show you what you truly need: connection, understanding, recognition. And in the very moment you listen, healing begins. Try sitting still, close your eyes. Remember the last time you were angry. Behind the explosion, was it the fear of being abandoned? Was it the memory of childhood, longing for praise that never came? Was it the worry that you were not important enough to be kept? Look deeply, and you'll see anger is not a stranger. It is the tender part of you waiting for you to embrace it. Silence, too, can become a box that locks your heart away. At first, you thought it kept the peace, that it protected what you valued. But the longer it lasts, the heavier it grows, and it drains you, because real peace never comes from silence. Peace only comes when you can be yourself, when you dare to speak your pain, when you know that true love will not vanish just because you are honest. Aries, strength is not hiding everything. Strength is daring to let tears fall, to say, "I need," to take off the shell and let others see the real you. And if someone leaves because of that truth, trust me, they were never meant to stay. You've carried anger and silence like a heavy pack on your back. It's time to set it down, because once you face the truth behind them, you'll see the door swing open, a door that leads to freedom within. And then, like water flowing back to the ocean, this truth will guide you to a moment that cannot be delayed. The moment your soul has been waiting for all along. The moment of letting go. Every journey reaches the moment when you must choose between holding on or letting go. And for you, Aries, that moment is the greatest turning point. In your heart, how many times have you strained to keep holding, hoping love would change, hoping one day they would finally see your worth? But the truth is, the tighter you hold, the deeper the wound. The more you try to keep what is already broken, the more you make yourself bleed. The world often believes that letting go is failure, but the truth is, letting go is not loss. It is the noble act of self-respect. It's the moment you decide no longer to beg for love, no longer to kneel before shattered pieces. You choose to stand, to lift your head and say, "I am worthy of something gentler, something brighter." In Buddhist teaching, letting go does not mean leaving everything behind. It means returning to yourself, to the soul already pure, to the light you once allowed to be covered by old chains. People fear letting go because they think only emptiness will remain. But that emptiness is not nothingness. It is space to breathe. It is room for something new, something worthy to enter. Aries, look back at the years you've lived trapped between holding and fearing loss. How many times have you drained yourself begging for love from those who could never give it back? How many times have you made yourself small, trading away peace and trust, just to keep someone from leaving? You may have forgotten, but your heart has whispered many times, "Let me rest, let me come home." Letting go does not take anything from you. Letting go gives you back to yourself. It is sacred, because in that moment you stop being the beggar and you become the one who chooses. You choose peace over chaos, truth over pretending, light over shadows, and most of all, you choose yourself over illusions that have already faded. Imagine when you open your hand and release what was never yours. How light you will feel, like a traveler taking off a heavy pack after carrying it for too long. Only then can you step forward, unburdened, free. The pain doesn't vanish overnight, but it becomes your teacher. It reminds you that real love never asks you to lose yourself. If there is something in your life you need to let go of, to be free, write it down. Let the words be a small promise, a first step on the path back home. It might be a relationship, a memory, or simply the old belief that you are not enough. Write it down, because once you admit it, the action has already begun, and that action unlocks the door to the peace you deserve. Aries, I know this path is not easy, but every tear you shed while letting go becomes rain that nourishes new life, and from within the ruins, you will see a different light. No longer the fire that destroys, but the fire that heals, warm, steady, enduring. And in that very moment of release, a rebirth begins. Not an ending, but the birth of a new flame, a flame that no longer burns you but warms you and brings you back to life. Every journey reaches the moment when you must choose to keep holding on or to finally let go. And for you, Aries, that moment is the turning point of your life. In your heart, how many times have you struggled to cling tighter, hoping love would change, hoping one day they would see your worth? But the truth is, the tighter you hold, the deeper the wound. The more you try to save what is already broken, the more you bleed yourself dry. The world often believes letting go is failure, but in truth, letting go is not loss. It is the noble act of self-respect. It's the moment you decide no more begging for love, no more kneeling before shattered pieces. You choose to rise. You lift your head and say, I am worthy of something gentler, something brighter. In Buddhist teaching, letting go is not abandoning everything. Letting go is the act of returning to yourself, to the soul already pure, to the light you once allowed to be covered by old chains. People fear letting go because they think only emptiness will remain. But that emptiness is not nothingness. It is space to breathe, room for something new, something worthy to enter. Aries, look back at the years you lived in the cycle of holding and fearing loss. How many times did you exhaust yourself begging for love from those who could never give it back? How many times did you shrink yourself, trading away peace and trust, just to keep someone from leaving? You may have forgotten, but your heart has whispered many times, let me rest, let me come home. Letting go does not take anything from you. Letting go gives you back to yourself. It is sacred, because in that moment you stop being the beggar and you become the one who chooses. Choose peace over chaos, truth over pretending, light over shadows, and most of all, choose yourself over the illusions that have already faded. Imagine when you open your hand and release what was never yours. How light you will feel, like a traveler dropping the heavy pack after carrying it for far too long. Only then can you move forward, free and unburdened. The pain doesn't vanish overnight, but it becomes your teacher. It reminds you true love will never ask you to lose yourself. If there is something in your life you need to release to be free, write it down. Let those words be a small promise, a first step on the path home. It might be a relationship, a memory, or simply the old belief that you are not enough. Write it down, because once you name it, you have already begun the action, and that action unlocks the door to the peace you deserve. Aries, I know this is not an easy road, but every tear shed in letting go becomes rain that nourishes new life, and from the ruins you will see a different light. No longer the fire that destroys, but the fire that heals, warm, steady, enduring. And in that moment of release, a rebirth begins. Not an ending, but the birth of a new flame. A flame that no longer burns you, but warms you and brings you back to life. Rebirth is not a miracle that happens overnight. It is like a quiet spring, slipping through dry branches after a long winter, until one morning you suddenly see green shoots, rising full of life. Aries, the rebirth of your soul is the same. Not a thunderclap, but a gentle opening, little by little, from the silences you once feared. When you choose yourself, it is not selfishness. It is wisdom, the knowing that true love can only begin from wholeness. Love born from lack only clings, only fears, and eventually turns you into a beggar. But when you learn to love yourself, to love the wounds, even the imperfect parts. You become whole, and from that wholeness, every connection you create comes not from fear but from freedom. You no longer need to prove your worth, no longer need to force anyone to stay, no longer bend yourself for recognition. The universe in its mystery begins to send new people, souls who know how to listen, how to lift, how to love without condition. They do not come to replace old losses, but to light the path before you, to remind you you were never truly alone. In that moment, you discover a simple, profound truth. True freedom begins when you no longer need permission to be yourself, when you don't need someone's approval to feel confident, when you don't need promises to believe in love, when you are at peace walking alone and still feel whole. That is rebirth. And along this path, faith opens a new door, because rebirth is not only born from your strength, but also from the hand of God, from the grace He has always poured quietly over you. How many nights have you looked at the sky asking, why did this loss happen? Why has love become pain? But even in those tears, He was listening. Even in your trembling silence, in every whispered prayer, He placed a new flame in your heart, the flame of hope, the flame of healing, the flame of a love that never betrays. Aries, rebirth is knowing you are loved, not for achievements, not for strength, not for the masks you wore, but simply because you are you. The universe and God want you to know your very existence is already a gift. And the moment you accept that truth, you will feel as if washed clean in sacred waters, stepping forward with a new heart. From here, you no longer chase outside approval, you become the light. And that light draws to you the souls who need it. New people, new opportunities, new journeys will appear, not to fill a void, but to walk beside you on the open road. If you are listening right now, ask yourself, how many years have you lived only to please others? And now, are you ready to live to please God and your own soul? Hold that question in your heart, for it may be the key to the door you've been searching for. Aries, rebirth is not some faraway promise. It begins the moment you dare to place yourself first, the moment you dare to love yourself in the way you once longed to be loved. And from that rebirth, another gift awaits, the final gift, the one no one can take away. The gift of everlasting freedom. Freedom is not a destination at the end of the road. It is a state of the soul when you are no longer bound by fear or by the need for someone else's approval. For you, Aries, the long journey filled with tears and stumbles has led to one vital truth. The painful truth is no longer the enemy. It is the key, the very key that opens the door you've been searching for all along, the door of liberation. Maybe you once feared the truth because it shattered you. But Aries, inside that breaking, a new soul was born. As the pieces fall away, they no longer weigh you down. Instead, you become lighter, freer, as if invisible wings were placed in your hands. The truth may bring tears, but it also gives you wings, wings to rise, and to finally see the vast sky you once never dared to look at. Healing doesn't mean erasing every scar. The scars remain, but instead of seeing them as wounds, you see them as sacred marks. Each line tells your story, a story of pain, of resilience, of a path no one else could walk for you. That scar is proof you have passed through the darkness and chosen the light. It is no longer a source of shame, but a symbol of strength and courage. When you stop living to prove yourself, you finally begin living to simply exist, to be present in every breath, every moment, every simple joy you once overlooked. You no longer need anyone's validation, because now you know in this very moment, your existence is already enough. Enough to love, enough to live, enough to shine your light into this world. Close your eyes for a moment and feel it. You no longer have to run. You no longer have to beg. You are simply here present, and in that presence, you find peace. That is everlasting freedom, the kind no one can take away, the kind no time can ever fade. If you are listening now, I invite you to share in the comments which part of this truth touched you the most, because maybe your words will be the small light that guides another soul still wandering in their own darkness. Every story spoken carries the power to heal, not just you but the community around you. Thank you, Aries, for listening with your whole heart. May you find peace in every day, courage in every step, and the love your soul has always longed for. And above all, keep the sacred flame within you, because that flame is the greatest gift you bring to this world.